जी सर, जी सर, जी सर, जी सर।
क्योंकि
ठीक है
बोलने
सर।
वाला आ जाता है, जिसको बोलना रहता है वो आ जाता है। बाकी लोग तो सुनने वाले ही बड़ा कष्ट होता है ना।
जी ठीक है सर।
नहीं, मैं नहीं ठीक कह रहा हूँ। तो आपने टाइम बताया है, जो टाइम बताया उसके लिए बता रहा
ठीक है सर, 11:30 लेट अस वेट। आप लोग भी आ
हूँ। नहीं,
जाते
आपने ये
हैं।
बताया ना 11:30।
जी सर, 11:30 स्टार्ट करना था।
पांडे जी तो
देख
हमसे इसी बहाने 2 मिनट बात कर लेंगे।
जी सर, बिल्कुल सर,
हाँ,
बिल्कुल सर।
तो आज पांडे जी कैसे खाली हो गए आप सुबह?
खाली नहीं है सर, जाना है ट्रिपल आईटी मणिपुर।
हाँ, वही तो।
फ्लाइट हमने फिर थोड़ा उसको चेंज किया, फिर शाम को गुवाहाटी रुकेंगे, कल सवेरे पहुंचेंगे। कल ही है। बहुत दिनों से ये ड्यू था। डॉक्टर भास्कर ने कई बार शेड्यूल किया, लेकिन हो नहीं पाया था, टॉक नहीं हो पाई थी।
Sir, thank you very much, sir, for accepting despite your very, very busy schedule.
नहीं, इट इज माय प्लेजर। डॉक्टर मीनल जी, हमको अलाउ कर दीजिएगा फॉर शेयरिंग माय स्लाइड, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट enabled.
यस सर, यस सर। काकोली, डॉक्टर काकोली, आप प्लीज वो करिए इसको। आपने अभी प्रेजेंट किया है ना, तो आप अनप्रेजेंट कीजिए। सर, आप अब स्लाइड शेयर कर सकते
ठीक है,
हैं।
अभी नहीं हुई तो आने दीजिए, फिर तब शुरू कर।
ठीक सर।
चाहे तो इस बीच में जो आप दिखाना चाह रहे थे, द बैनर और द पोस्टर कैन बी डिस्प्लेड if it is required, otherwise.
ठीक सर।
और पांडे जी से ही पहले बुलवाइएगा, है कि नहीं? क्योंकि
ठीक है
मुझे
सर।
तो, मैं तो श्रोता ही रहूं, ज्यादा ठीक रहेगा। साइंस पांडे जी के
नहीं
सामने
सर,
क्या बोलूं?
जैसा आप कहिए, अदरवाइज आप अपने बात वक्तव्य दे करके यू कैन, आपको तमाम और भी काम होगा ना, तो
हमारे पास
व्हाई
कोई
डू
काम नहीं है।
ऐसा नहीं होता, वो लोग आके पीछे से खड़े होंगे वहां पर दरवाजे पर।
Sir, with your kind permission, it is 11:30. Can
जी
I
जी
start, sir?
जी जी बिल्कुल।
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very good morning and namaskar to all of you. Indeed, it's really a great privilege for me to welcome you all to this webinar, which is being organized by School of Sciences today. Today, we are very much honored by the gracious presence of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Nageshwar Rao. Sir has always guided us, supported us, and he has always encouraged us in all our endeavors. Under his able guidance, our university has received the highest NAAC accreditation A++. We see Sir's constant inspiration and motivation has paved way that we are in the process of developing MSc programs in 7 disciplines. I express my deep sense of gratitude to our Vice Chancellor, Sir, for kindly agreeing to preside this webinar. On behalf of School of Sciences, I warmly welcome you, sir. We are delighted and overwhelmed to warmly welcome our chief guest, Dr. Avinash Chand Pandey, sir. He is Director, Inter-University Accelerator Center, New Delhi. Professor Avinash Chand Pandey, sir, has kindly consented to share his vast knowledge and experience with us. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to deliver a keynote address on the topic ethics in science. It's a very relevant topic in contemporary world. Here, I take an opportunity to express my thanks and gratitude to Pandey sir for kindly allowing our PhD students to work and generate geochemical data in labs at IUSC. Thank you, sir. We are grateful to our Pro-Vice Chancellors for gracing the occasion and encouragement. I take it as an opportunity to welcome directors of schools and divisions, faculty members from other schools, officers from regional centers, IGNOU fraternity, and dear students to this webinar. This webinar is being streamed live on Facebook. I extend hearty welcome to all the guests who have joined us today. At the outset, let me give a brief introduction of School of Sciences. School of Sciences was established in 1986 with 4 disciplines in basic sciences. Presently, the school offers higher education in science in 8 disciplines: biochemistry, chemistry, geography, geology, life science, physics, mathematics, and statistics. And the faculty is involved in planning, developing, and offering academic programs at awareness, certificate, diploma, undergraduate, and postgraduate levels in distance mode and research in regular mode. So far, the school has designed and developed and offered 29 programs. School has developed 3 successful multidisciplinary programs with international collaboration, like with SAARC nations, World Intellectual Property Organization, and Commonwealth of Learning. School has also developed and offered value-added programs for capacity building and skill development at various levels. Faculty has successfully completed many projects funded by government agencies like DST, SERB, UGC, CSIR, DBT, and BRNS. And their research outputs have been published in high-impact national and international journals. It has been a practice in SOS of conducting webinars, but due to COVID, it could not be continued with, not frequently. So now this is a beginning. So we will document all the webinars and disseminate them. We will put them on our website for the benefit of learners. Now, with this brief introduction of the school, I express my gratitude and welcome. Vice Chancellor, sir. Sir, we are looking forward to listening your words of wisdom. Now, I humbly request VC sir to please deliver the presidential address. Thank you. Sir, please.
Good morning to all of you. First of all, I am happy to be with you all this morning, auspicious day, Durga Ashtami, and especially welcoming Professor A.C. Pandey, Director, Inter-University Accelerator Center, and a close associate of mine. I'm happy that Meenal Mishra ji has initiated this process of organizing webinars, and in which the great scholar and a great scientist, I am not knowing these two things, but what I know is he is a great administrator. We have invited him to enlighten all of us. My memories goes back to 2012 when I visited the university wherein he was the vice chancellor, and he organized all his administrative activities so systematically, which till today I find that no one else to whom I can say that such systems they were developed in an university system. And when we are inviting such a person to talk in science, now we see that how he practiced the science. Practice, cause and effect relationship, logics, and clarity about the issues. Because I do know the problems which he confronted there, but he tackled it so effectively. And especially the examination system. Till today, I try to see that at least I could pick up only a part of that. Then I do feel that I have done also something in this area. Humble person, and lot of academics, especially in the field of science, he is having it. In UGC, almost he is associated with all the policy making documents. Fortunately, I was also associated with him in one of the initiatives regarding the capacity building. And he is also instrumental in conferring our stride as one of the HRDC centers. A great human being. He also helped us in our academic council. He was also a member of the academic council 2 years back. Coming to the theme, because I wanted to listen to him mostly, but even then as a layman, what I could perceive is that science is exact. Science tells us that what needs to be done exactly. Normative issues, subjective issues, they are not being taken into consideration. That is why it is called an exact science. And almost all the disciplines, they emanate from the basic science. I don't know what concept the director school of science is having in her mind, but we are having the social science also. We are having the management science also. We are having the computer science also. We are having the environmental science also. And the pure sciences like physics, chemistry, botany, zoology, geology, geography, etc. And our school is very, very rich in terms of knowledge, in terms of contents, and in terms of our programs also. Because our programs, the concerns for quality, they are clearly being addressed. And when the people were just thinking that can we go in ODL system, the science programs, we were the pioneers. And then we endeavored that particular area to see that how the science, it can be taught in ODL mode. The experimentation, it has given us good results. We are having the study centers all over the country, reputed institutes of technology, institutes of science, the universities, they are our study centers, wherein the counseling sessions, they are also being carried on. The study materials, they have also been developed. And here also the expertise, especially the subject expertise from the experts and the ODL expertise from our own faculty. And both were put together and we got the results. And that particular teaching learning process is very, very peculiar. And that is why when they are being asked to go for the postgraduate programs, they all exerted a lot and tried to find out that how that process can be evolved, wherein high quality science programs, they can be launched as the post-graduation programs. The success stories are very, very few in the country. So therefore, we are very cautious and careful while developing a mechanism wherein the students of postgraduate programs in science, especially the physical sciences, their quality level, their knowledge level, their exposure level, it should be no way less than the competence and knowledge level of a conventional learner. Because here we are the invisible teachers. We are teaching the subjects through our material, and that too at a distance. Even the practicals also, we are now experimenting to have the virtual labs. Of course, that experiments are going on in UK Open University as well as in some other places. But we are doing it in our own way to see that to what extent we can justify those things. And the concern for quality, the concern for reach, the concern for preparing good quality teaching material. Everywhere, the concerns are to be addressed, and we all are addressing it in such a way so that the learner may not be put in a disadvantageous positions. Meenal Mishra ji is hardworking, laborious, and I do remember when she met me in 2015 regarding her project. Very sincere, and she wanted to push her project. The school is supporting her, but the support system is not conducive to complete her task effectively. And then recently she became the administrator, the academic administrator. great researcher. And when she put the proposal before me regarding this webinar, and specifically putting the name of Pandeji, then I said, why you are calling Pandeji? Because I know him. Because of that, or you have got your own merit. But subsequently, she finalized your name and you are with us. Panditji, we are really thankful and grateful for your benign presence. And we will definitely be enlightened by your words of wisdom. Because for us, your exposure and your hard work in the field of science, that is known all over the country. Because I do get the feedback from my own colleagues in the field of science without mentioning that I know you. So welcome you to this university, and I will be listening to you because I also want to learn something ABC of science through you, because you are such a simple uh, uh, teacher. The way you explain the things, that also becomes easier for a layman like me to understand those basics. So once again, I welcome you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, with your permission, sir, should I start my talk?
Sir, just I would like to briefly introduce you before the talk.
Very
First of all,
very briefly, because
yeah, very brief. So thanks to our Vice Chancellor, sir, and Director, Madam, for this opportunity. And I am highly grateful to you, sir, that you found time. I know how busy you are. In fact, your CV is so much that I know it is very difficult. I try to be brief. Only 5 slides I made, so that if there is a voice disturbance, others can see it. So I will just share the PowerPoint. Just 5 slides. Dr. Meenal, my slide is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
Okay. First of all, I am highly grateful to Professor Avinash Chandra Pandey because I know he has been daily traveling and recently also he has been busy, but he has kindly accepted to our request. Highly grateful to you, sir. He is the director IUAC and also director Inter University Center Yoga Sciences in Bangalore. He is the chairman, governing council, Indian Institute of Astrophysics. And as our vice chancellor mentioned, he was the former vice chancellor of Bundelkhand University. There is a lot of achievement. I didn't know what to collect and what not to collect. But when I searched the web and saw his CV, he is truly a multifaceted personality. He has MSc in physics, MBA in marketing, MSc in mathematics, and MTech in computer science. And his DPhil is from University of Allahabad in 1995. Then I saw his CV, as our Vice Chancellor sir mentioned. He's a great researcher. H index is 50, which is not at all easy for anyone to get. 26 PhD students. He is member of several professional bodies. I will not read all. Just to say he is a member of science, that itself sufficient to show his stature. He is member of American Chemical Society and he is the president of Iron Beam Society of India. He has more than 300 papers and 208 are in international journals, several patents, several visits abroad, several collaborations, USA, Japan, South Africa, Germany, Armenia, South Korea, SAARC countries, Italy. One of the prestigious assignment is associate of ICTP in Italy. This is a very prestigious academic position and adjunct professor at Michigan Tech, USA. As an administrator, our VC has already said about him. He is a great administrator. He is a man with vision. He has established the Nanotechnology Application Center. He has established the high fluence ion beam facility, and he has established the new department of atmospheric and ocean science as an offshoot of physics department in University of Allahabad. As we see there, he has transformed the teaching learning process assessment of Bundelkhand University by widely applying technological interventions based on ICT. Then he proactively propagates the importance of outcome based learning. As a vice chancellor, he has taken several steps like completely digitalizing the university for admission, for the faculty recruitment, number of things which because of shortage of time I cannot say. But as a director IUAC also, he has taken several path breaking initiatives, like there was no vision plan, he has developed one. Several important science facilities are there. As our vice chancellor mentioned, he has important role in educational policy and higher education, and he has chaired many committees and participated as a member in several committees for preparing the roadmap of implementation and developing guidelines and regulation in tune with NEP 2020. Several of the documents are authored by him, and this 2020 policy is going to influence and change the landscape of our country. He has accredited and assessed as chairman NACs, and he has reviewed all the 66 HRDCs, Human Resource Development Center. As our Vice Chancellor mentioned, he has also been supporting IGNOU by giving the STRIDE the HRDC equivalence status. As a human quality, I just searched these research scholars, and I could see they have written a lot of positive things about him. He's an outstanding faculty member, and it is very rare to find a person like him who is an outstanding teacher, outstanding, and he is all rolled into one. In one line, I would say he is a role model for all of us. What his student has written, Dr. Prashant, I got this from the internet, both the image and content. Professor Pandey is a loving husband, caring father, concerned brother, a docile son, above all a great human being. He is very enthusiastic person and always encourages, motivates us to achieve the target. Sir, with all humility, I welcome you and request you to share your thoughts with us. Welcome, sir. Highly grateful to you for your time. I know how important it is for you to spare time for us. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Although I do not deserve all these things, what you said. Uh, uh, I have always been like blessed with the blessings of Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, who has supported me. He forgot that prior to 2012, when I was setting up the department there in Allahabad University, he did visit my center and he participated in one such function as chief guest when he was there as Vice Chancellor of UPRTOU. And he has always been very supportive and very kind. And because of that, I could do some of the things which a teacher has to do during the course of life. So thank you, Dr. Milan Mishra ji, Dr. Bhaskar, for giving this opportunity. All the distinguished academicians, learned teachers who have joined today for this session. I will try to summarize some of the things which need to be looked at carefully. So just a minute. Could you please see the slides now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
They are
the
visible, sir.
topic which was given to me was ethics in science, and this is again a kind of webinar. I love to be face to face, but after COVID, this has become a sort of common phenomena, and that is good because we can reach a large number of participants through this webinar. VC sir was saying about this what science is. So you see, I have written here, science is a tale to tell about tales. So there are three tales have got different meaning. Is a story, tale, to tell about tales. We do not limit only by having a descriptive sort of thing, but we go deeper into the subject, and that is what I have written here, tales. So we define this science as intellectual and practical activity which encompasses the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. So when we do observe or experiment, sometimes some biases are there which may be inherent.
Sir, can I request you for full screen, sir? Full screen, and also slides are not moving.
Is it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Full screen. F5.
Can you see this? This is full screen now? No?
In the side, we are getting the PPT. If it can be made full screen, okay. Otherwise,
see, now I have made it full screen, but you said it is not seen that way.
Please start the slideshow. Please start the slideshow.
I have
start the slideshow, please.
I have done it. I have done it. Yes. It is in slideshow mode.
Under the slideshow, there is a start slideshow is there. There's on the top menu, there is something called slideshow.
Actually, many times there is compatibility problems, sir. So you can move your slide one by clicking them, sir. Maybe there is some compatibility problem.
Yes,
sir.
that I can also understand. But the problem is, can you see now?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
It is fine, sir. We
So
can
you
continue
can
with
click
this.
one slide, so it will be visible, sir.
So this is a full slide view, or again yours? Please confirm.
It is not.
Sir, no issue. You can just click one slide, sir. I don't think so. There is full slide will be visible because there may be some compatibility issue, sir.
Maybe you start pressing that from beginning. Slideshow from beginning.
Just click on from beginning.
From beginning, yeah, that is better. Yeah, that one. Yeah, please, that button.
Is okay now?
But it is not in full screen.
No problem, sir. Please go ahead.
If it is seen this way better, then I can.
No, it is seen. No issues. No issues. Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the science, what this science is, a very small introduction. Why we have to worry about ethics in scientific research? What are the issues? So broadly, we can say that we have to protect the rights and also the welfare of research participants. And not only that, we have to protect the wider society, because it is the society that is going to get benefited or get harmed if we do not follow the ethics or the practices which are to be followed. And then this issue of ethics comes into picture. We have a different problem because the definition of ethics is, and also the moral values evolves. And also it is not constant, it is not invariant in terms of spatio-temporal frame of reference. So when we say what ethics is, so we have got this definition that moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity is actually ethics. And sometimes we also call that the branch of knowledge that deals with the moral principles. So if you go again, what is the ethics? You'll be confronted with two questions. The first question is a question of conduct. What makes an act morally right or wrong? So in Sanskrit text, we are generally confronted with the kind of, we say that there is a bhed buddhi in which we have to differentiate the cheer and also neer. Like we say that what is right, what is wrong. So this question is question of conduct. The other question is what makes a person or something good or bad. And then it comes the value which is there with the question. So these two questions are generally theoretical or sometimes conceptual. But if I ask the third question, how to draw the correct conclusion about what we ought to do or what kind of person we ought to be. So sometimes we are confronted with the question that I do not know what is right, what is wrong. So what I should do, that is one question. And what kind of person I should become in coming days. So the third question is practical question, and that is the moral reasoning comes into picture. So what are these ethical principles? The one is, if I say what is moral behavior, what are the good moral behavior, what is the good moral behavior? We all know that honesty, keeping promises, helping others, respective rights of others, whereas the bad moral behavior is you lie sometimes, you steal something, or you deceive that harms others. When we talk about these principles, so these principles, we say that it is universal. That means it applies across the board. That means all the countries, all the cultures, all the communities should have similar kind of ethical principles. But no, that is not the case. There is a relativism of ethical principles. They vary from country to country, community to community, and with the evolution, you could see that there is a temporal variation also. So when we call that what is relativism, it is defined by various periods of time in history. I'll give some historical background. A society's traditions, which are generally accepted, we call it as a moral sort of binding on us. If you test it on reasoning, you may find there are issues with those traditions, and there are certain special circumstances of the moment. Yesterday, we observed the Gandhi Jayanti, and it is said that if you are somebody, what is ahimsa, what is non-violence? So there are various perspectives to it, and then your personal opinion is there. So when we want to give the meaning to ethics, it is relative with respect to time, place, circumstance, and the person involved. Sometimes when we look at what the best decisions are, what are the moral values, so if you go long back in history, Herodotus, he said, a decision was wise, even though it led to disastrous consequences, if the evidence at hand indicated it was the best. If you make good choices as per your premises, planning premises, and if suppose the consequences are disastrous, the other important thing is the second part, that if even if you take a foolish decision, but it leads to happiest possible consequence, if it was unreasonable to expect those consequences, the results are good, you say that okay, that is considered to be the best decision. So these are some of the questions which we are confronted. And if I talk about the different stages of the history, in the history of ethics, the first stage was when the moral authority was shifted from above human, when it's not the God or the divine, to humans. The second stage was extending the belief that humans are responsible only to humans. The rise of nihilism and relativism came into picture. Nihilism is a doctrine that denies any objective ground of truth, and especially of moral truths. The third stage is focus shifting from individual to public ethics towards utilitarianism, and that is applied ethics, which is becoming popular, and there is also virtue ethics that is gaining ground. The philosophical ethics, what we have assumed, that humans are generally very good and can be more ethical, and reason is sufficient basis for developing ethics. Humans are accountable only to other humans. The other theory, the other assumption is nature is the ultimate reality, which was given by Carl F.H. Henry. Humans are essentially animals. Truth and right are intrinsically time bound and changing. The theories which have generally been developed, I talked about the two questions. What the first question and second question, that was a theoretical question. The practical question was how to become and how to conduct science, how to behave in such a manner that I am considered good, and also the outcome is also good. So to have this question answered, there are several such theories which talk about different situations, the moral rules that guide morality of specific kinds of action that could be derived from such kind of actions, and together with facts about an individual, we can further judge whether an individual act is morally right or wrong, or whether a person or something is good or bad. So I'll come to this part that what are the questions which we have to answer when we talk about ethics in science. So there is a structure of moral action. There is a person who makes the question was, what makes a person morally good? If he's courageous, kind, or whatever attribute you can list here, do the motive, the character and intention of the person matter in deciding whether an action is right or wrong? This question is again being asked to you. The action is what makes an action morally right. This is again a kind of subjective thing. And consequences, what constitutes a good or bad. I gave an example of 500 BC, some philosopher, that whatever good intent you had, if the consequences were not good, or if you took a foolish decision, but everybody was happy, how to determine what is morally good, what is not. So if I talk about what are the ethical issues in scientific research, there are two main questions are there. How science should be conducted, and the second question is what science should be conducted. I will answer this first question later. The second question is what science should be conducted can be looked at from different perspective. What is the bad science? What are the potential implications of a science that hampers the growth or the development and that is not sustainable? So science which should be conducted should be sustainable. And for that example, if you take example here, variety of issues are there, starting from aging population to emerging epidemics. And very recently, if you remember, this SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, 2 years, the 2 years that has just passed, you could see what are the issues. Sometimes we were baffled by some of the uh, decisions or some of the symptoms or what to take as an advice, what not to take. And this took a lot of toll. I'm not going to go into those details, but definitely every person on the earth, human being, was so much badly affected. We can always attribute to some sort of Wuhan lab or whatever. Nobody knows what is the myth, what is the correct fact, why this happened. But definitely, if there was a bioterrorism, if there was something that made you all suffer, definitely that science is bad. The second question is answered that way. You all know that due to this pollution, degradation of environment, the consumption which is exceedingly high, the unsustainability is there. Whatever a river body you see, you will find that river body does not have the sustainable way of moving ahead, and they are all under threat. Another important thing is the sixth extinction. Every day we are losing a species, and that is another problem which may have some consequence on our existence also. And that is also not because we have done something or we have not done something. It is the science which can be blamed, and it is the industrial revolution after which the anthropogenic activity led to growth of or increase in carbon dioxide in other greenhouse gases, and that has led to this kind of situation in which the climate earth is under threat, under stress. So that is the answer of the second question. It is very difficult to specify or spell out that what is to be done, what is not to be done. You have to use your judicious way of deciding. The second question is answered, but the first question is what? How science should be conducted. So there are two categories of scientific misconduct. One is negligence, and the second is deliberate dishonesty. When we perform some experiment, we neglect some of the things which we consider as obvious. For example, these days we are developing an MRI magnet, which is for the first time in the country. We do not know how this conducting magnet goes into persistence mode. Persistence mode means if you put liquid helium, there is no need to put liquid helium in coming days. And if a buyer or if a doctor purchases that magnet or MRI machine, is not bothered that how this magnet is going to get cooled. It is always getting cooled. But the problem is, if you make joints, and if the joints have some kind of resistance there, it will have a sort of joule heating and it will never go into persistence mode. So the negligence of not keeping the environment clean. When I say environment clean means the work is to be done in extremely clean environment, and we call it clean room 100,000, and accordingly we have to do it. And the second important thing is which need to be looked at, that is deliberate dishonesty. So when I call negligence, negligence means deviation from methodological norms, that is standard operating procedures. If we do not follow those standard operating procedures, we are making some kind of cut short. We are jumping from one step to other step without observing all those SOPs, the set of rules. Definitely, we are negligent towards our duty. The second important thing is more worrying, and that has some basis of moral norms. We deviate from moral norms. We generate data. Sometimes we, while collecting data, we do not actually administer the questionnaire. We ourselves put yes, no, or whatever information is there. So that is called deliberate dishonesty. When we have these kind of two situations, so sometimes negligence lead to reports which are reputable. When I say reputable, means people get interested into that. If I say that is not possible, somebody will come and challenge and will do some other experiment and try to prove whatever results I had in my earlier attempt is now being changed, is now being challenged. Maybe because at that point of time the methodology was not proper, the instruments were not proper to observe the phenomena so sensitively. So that may have led to that kind of wrong reports. But now that has given another chance to others to work on that and to come out the fresh results. So we may call, for the sake of our safety, that it is reputable errors. On the other side, if you deliberately get involved into dishonesty, you deviate from moral norms and you are caught that the data which you generated is not truthful, then this is disreputable errors. And this is not the case that always negligence will have reputable errors or deliberate dishonesty will have disreputable errors. Sometimes your negligence may also not be considered proper, and you may earn more disrepute than your repute. So we have to be very careful while conducting the science, and these are some of the issues which need to be looked at very carefully. We should not be negligent. We should not deliberately do something which is considered as dishonest practice. So when I talk about what are the methodological norms, so what this scientific method is, we have a kind of characterization. So we generate a hypothesis. Hypothesis means a hypothetical explanation, and then we predict whether the logical deduction from the hypothesis could be made or not. And for that, we perform several experiments. We test all of the above, and then we evaluate. We do it several times, and if the data is if the results are reproducible, then we can say to some certainty that now the results are good, can be reported. We also go for peer review. So peer review means the other reviewers, they also look at your data. Maybe because of your gross involvement, you might have forgotten some of the things that is pointed out by the peer review. They may find something which is not justifiable from their perspective. They may ask you to again go for the repeat experiment. So these are the cycles by which we perform the experiment, and by performing the experiment, the norms which come forward, which are actually to be followed, is universalism, communalism, disinterestedness, and organized skepticism. When I say universalism, means it requires that science be independent of any race, color, creed, that it should be essentially international. And nowadays, when we talk about our science, our higher education, we are emphasizing that the higher education should be internationalized. That means the people from outside India, they should also look at our research. They should participate in a PhD program as a reviewer, as an examiner. So, because whatever we have produced, it is international research. It is not that it is only applicable in our country. The second important thing is communalism, which requires that scientific knowledge should be public knowledge. It should not be limited to your own consumption. So it should get published. And while publishing, the freedom of exchange of all the information which you have generated, that is there among all the scientists, wherever they are, and those scientists should be responsible to the scientific community for the trustworthiness of their published work. So it is your responsibility, whatever you are publishing, that should be truthful, and also that should be made available, and everywhere we should follow the same responsibility towards conducting this experiment. The third important thing is disinterestedness, that requires the results of bona fide scientific research should not be manipulated to serve considerations. And I will give you some examples through which the historical foundations were built for coming out with these SOPs, or also the moral grounds for conducting research. So if it is for personal profit, it is for propagating your ideology or expediency, if you are doing something to serve your own considerations, then it is a kind of dishonesty, and it does not mean that research should not be competitive. You have to be competitive. If your ideology does not suit, does not mean that you should stop and you should not work towards that. So the universalism, the communalism, and also making you at the center stage should be another important factor which should come under disinterestedness. You should always focus on something which is universal in terms of its impact. So when I talk about the fourth important thing, that is organized skepticism, it requires that a statement should not be accepted on the word of authority, that I'm a big person, I'm head of director of laboratory. So if I say something, then that should be taken as the word. No, scientists should be free to question them, and that the truth of any statement should finally rest on the comparison with the observed fact. It is not that I have experienced something, I have found something in my laboratory, so that should be considered as the observed fact. No, it should be questioned on the basis of reasoning, and that is always, and that is the spirit of scientists, the spirit of science, that always you have to question and keep questioning. The insightful questioning gives you the way how the facts can be established. So that is another important thing. When I talk about what are the values, so obviously what kind of science we should not do, caring and compassion for others, planning and decision making is another aspect which is looked at. Then you can be very methodical. The first question requires this kind of planning and decision making, so that SOP is in place, problem solving, citizenship, honesty and trustworthiness, integrity, responsibility, and respect for others, the other scientists, other researchers. That is all encompasses the value education which is being highlighted these days. And if I talk about what are the issues which are having philosophical basis, for example, in meta ethics, what is goodness? How are good and bad determined? These are the questions which always bothers you, and finding in some of the situations it is very difficult to differentiate what is good, what is bad, at least in terms of the scientific output. VC sir was talking about normative ethics. What should we do? Deontology, utility, virtue, applied ethics. What is right and wrong in specific situations? Specific situations means if suppose somebody is going to kill you, whether you are going to use the arm to have yourself in self-defense or not. This is one such example. Likewise, in other scenarios also, we have to find some ways by which we can differentiate what is good, what is bad. So I took three schools of ethics in Western philosophy, Arastu. He says that virtues are dispositions to act in ways that benefit both the person possessing them and society. This is quote unquote what Arastu said. Kant, Humans are bound from a knowledge of their duty as rational beings to obey the categorical imperative to respect other rational beings. And the third school of thought, Western philosophical school of thought, is utilitarianism is an action is right in so far as it promotes happiness, and the greatest happiness of the greatest number should be the guiding principle of conduct. So now to see the problem, where is the problem? How can you define, how can you measure and compare happiness? Should we focus only on the consequences rather than the motive? If my motive was bad and the people are happy, can you consider my motive as the good moral value? So these are some of the things which we need to understand. We have to question ourselves. And while questioning, if you see the worldwide views on the philosophical or theological, the three schools of thoughts which I have taken: monotheistic, in which the kingdom is nowhere, but the divine kingdom is ruling you. Who is sovereign? God is sovereign. Who is powerful? God is there and he has delegated. So you have to please the God. If you don't do that, then you do some kind of sin, which is sinful, and you are only accountable to God. So this is one such a school of thought which is revolving around the divine power. The second school of thought is philosophical or anthropological or utopian. The kingdom is nothing other than political or social. So we are considering ourselves as the gods. It is the power is ours. We reason, and the majority of the reasoning that prevails, and that gives the force. So people or self is to be pleased, not the God. And basically, this is an optimistic way of looking at, and we are responsible to nobody other than the people. Likewise, in animistic, the balancing is there between human and spirits. God is gone, belongs to the spirits, please spirits, basically good, and we are accountable to spirits. See how this spatio-temporal variation, and also in terms of the evolution of different kind of moral theories, ethical theories have come up, where we are questioning ourselves that what is good, what is bad, which conduct should be considered as morally acceptable, which should not. So in some of the theories, the moral truth exists. It is a fact. For example, in cognitivism, moral facts can be discovered by reason. So the guiding principle is by reasoning, you can find out what are the moral facts. If you are in dilemma, what is good, what is bad, you have to reason it. Descriptivism is moral judgments can be true or false. And then there is a intuitionism, naturalism, absolutism, and more realism. Consequently, these are some of the different phenomena, the theories by which we try to find out the truth, whether it is absolute or it is relative, or it has got the two sides which cannot be true. So these are ways by which people have always inquired what moral facts can be considered as the good or bad in terms of morality. So if I talk about these theories in terms of the basis, activity, and example, so deontology is what? That rules to distinguish from right from wrong. This is the ethical theory, and the basis is it's absolute. Activity is you have to obey whatever is written as right, and the example is perceptivism, and it was because of uh, Kant who gave this theory, Immanuel Kant, and he said, don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat. These are some of the moral universal principles, and they are considered to be natural law. Whereas in case of consequential, the basis should be consequence. What is the consequence? Maybe your intuition was, your intention was not good or bad, but the consequence was good. So you have to weigh and you have to look at whether it is utilitarianism or you have to have different kind of other forms which is due to consequential behavior of considering good or bad. Then the other important thing is virtue or character. What is required from me? What are the characters which we should have? How we are going to possess those characters, and then how we are going to behave in a different fashion. as an example of these virtual characters. So these are some of the other views of finding the answer to the difficult question, that is what moral issues are to be followed. So moral disagreements are always common. You always look at some of the issues. I'm not going into the details of other aspect why there are disagreements, but there are sometimes controversies, and also they are open-ended. We cannot arrive at some consensus, and because of that, it is very difficult that whatever I consider to be morally good, people may disagree, and the disagreement may be radical or maybe fundamental. People even disagree about what and how much they disagree. To some extent, they agree, but they will say that I do not agree with you completely. So these are some of the situation in which you have to be always keep yourself in a reasoning situation. So when I talk about Visisa was talking about that, why only science, why not in other disciplines? I have chosen some of the slides that it is not only limited to the sciences, but in coming days when the privacy is another concern, so many of the things which will be considered, whether it is moral or immoral or non-moral. There are many ways of saying moral, amoral, immoral, non-moral, and I'm not going to go into the details of these definitions, but definitely they revolve around simple premises that they are not going to harm others, they are going to improve your business relations. At what cost? Are you going to cheat them? Are you going to lie? Improve your how employee productivity can be enhanced, how penalties can be reduced. So variety of such other behavior concerns are there in case of business, and in case of accounting, the ethics is honesty, integrity, and accuracy. Marketing ethics is always there. We have been taught that way. Information system ethics, and you talk about the discipline, there is a morality, there is an ethics question in those disciplines also. It is not only limited to the sciences. So if I talk about how we are going to get protected, if suppose something is there, morality, immorality question is there, is dominating, so there are some ethical regulations, and on that basis of which the laws are made, and these universal principles of human rights, they come into picture. So I'll give a historical background, how this happened and how these codes got developed. So Nuremberg code was during Nazi regime. Then thalidomide was one such cancer drug which was not told in advance that how this is going to get affect the subject. And then there was a question of privacy, declaration of Helsinki, tea room trade, Milgram experiment. These are some of the studies that made you think that these are some of the issues on the basis of which we have to make ourselves aware, and the code should evolve. So if I talk about the timeline, this Nuremberg code was mustard gas was used by Nazi, the Hitler, and it was not told to the subject that is going to affect the pupil on which this mustard gas is being applied. Similar kind of many such other experiments, many such other in the meanwhile, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights that came into 1948, Declaration of Helsinki. So these experiments in which certain issues were raised, and people started talking about that what are the moral values, how we have to follow those values so that we can go for the moralistic view of performing experiment. So this is one such experiment in which the ethical issue was there was no informed consent. This is called Tuskegee and Guterman syphilis studies. This is a genital viral disease, and the penicillin was a cure, but without telling, these experiments were being performed. They were given free medical care, they were given meals, the insurance was also there, and that ranged from 6 months to 40 years. These experiments were performed, but the only problem was that the persons on whom the experiment was performed, their consent was not taken. The other experiment which I talked about, Nazi experiment, they were exposed to mustard gas. high altitude experiments, again no informed consent, and they were given all kind of benefits. And because of the low pressure chamber, to simulate altitude, effect of altitude, high altitude, 200 people die, malaria, and they treated the malaria with other drugs, 600 people died. So these are some of the issues which uh, started cropping in, and the people started working on that, and then they came out with a code that you have to have the consent should be there, the result should be good for the society, and variety of such codes they came out of these much talked about experiments. Another historical foundation was tea room trade study. So that was a kind of sexual study which was not given in detail, and then people started talking about that. The Helsinki Declaration, which I talked about, that was a set of ethical principles that were regarded as human experimentation for medical community. Now, many of the experiments which we perform while experimenting on human subject, we need to take consent, and that came from this Helsinki. Likewise, in San Antonio contraceptive study, the procedure was double-blind trial. Sometimes this COVID also, we had several issues in which people were not given a good background of what kind of vaccine this one is and how it is going to affect you. So if you don't have informed consent, the participants who are participating, they are sometimes vulnerable, and sometimes some of the experiments have a placebo effect, that despite the fact that we talk about that this is going to help you, people assume that this is going to help, and that there was no disease and people get cured. So this is also a kind of scenario in which your experiment may have a faulty design, which may lead to a different kind of scenario. This milligram experiment, we try to know that whether the subject is obedient, which was an average person, all kind of requests, it may be immoral or unreasonable. So this experiment was conducted in an ethical fashion. Some kind of shocks were generated, and the people were asked to uh, tell about their experience. So without telling that I'm going to give this kind of thing. So these are some of the issues which give you kind of basis on the basis of which you can ask yourself whether it is good or bad. So the key phrases which we used here: voluntary participation, informed consent, risk or harm, confidentiality, anonymity. If I am taking some of the data which cannot be used, which may harm the reputation. So these are the guiding principles. We should respect for human dignity, for free and informed consent, respect for vulnerable person, for their privacy and confidentiality, for justice and inclusiveness, for harms, balancing the harms and benefits, minimizing harm, maximizing benefit, and the qualitative and quantitative data, whichever is generated, the sample size, which is also important. You cannot test the virus vaccine on 10% and say that it is universal. So that was also an issue which when we were trying for our own vaccines. So these are qualitative and quantitative approaches which need to be looked at. And I will summarize my uh, talk. What is an obligation of the researcher? We have to follow the code of ethics. We have to be objective as far as we can make our research objective. There must not be any misrepresentation. If you report something unusual, you have to report it. No misrepresentation on that account. Preserve anonymity and confidentiality if it is required, if the subject is human being. And to make it like more robust, the research proposal should be competing. That means the universalism should always be there. People should get a chance to review your work and get it like the last important thing is language is also important. Is whatever you are going to be convey, it should be very clear. If you are not very clear in your mind and you are using a language which confuses the reader, again you are participating a kind of experiment in which the reader or the subject or the beneficiary is going to get misled, and that is not the intentions of a good researcher. So with these few slides, I conclude my talk here for your questions, if any.
Yes, thank you, sir. It was indeed a very useful and informative presentation. You have very thoroughly discussed about what is ethics, then what are ethical principles, philosophical ethics, ethical issues in scientific research, and how science should be conducted, sir. Thank you, sir, for in spite of your busy schedule, you are here for this webinar. Sir, yeah, can we take one or two questions, sir, please?
Sure, yes.
Yes, Subha ma'am, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Pandey. That was a very enlightening talk today. I just wanted to say a couple of things about what you have discussed in the sense when we are publishing certain things. Right now, there is such a great, race even to get funding or whatever. Publishing has become a kind of a buzzword. And for that matter, I think that kind of, so to say, some kind of immature or not incomplete results are being published, and then the retractions are also happening. And there has been a big retraction last week on room temperature superconductivity, as you must have seen in the Nature. So those kind of things should be avoided, and that can, I think, happen only when we are completely sure before we publish. And for that, I think role of a supervisor especially becomes very critical in case when the students are after you to get certain things published. I think that kind of ethics are also to be imbibed in the matured scientists, although this we say ethics are to be imbibed in the students. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Just to respond to your observation, it is really correct, and also the way we are putting pressure on the research scholars to get some kind of publication so that they can get their degree awarded. So we have modified the PhD regulations, and now it will come very soon. And after a long sort of battle, people from the academia or the researchers, they did not want that this kind of thing is removed from the regulations. So the predatory journals and also the pressure on the researcher to publish half-cooked data was the outcome. And to convince the community, a kind of research was also conducted. The outcome of the research of different central universities, how many of them are actually reaching to that level, which can be considered as the good result, was found to be having a myth was there. So now we are in that scenario. The publication pressure is not there. Second important thing which you said, retractions. Retractions, it is because of sometimes the negligence. The negligence, for example, I was taking example of our magnet MRI. So we are facing some kind of problem. These technology or the methods are not known in public. This is well guarded secret of some of the companies. They don't want you to get those secrets and then you start manufacturing. So when they publish, they do not give the correct data. Sometimes the key important parameters are removed from the publication so that you cannot reproduce. And I have done many experiments. The science paper, the nature paper, if you wish to reproduce, is not possible. Because the key factor, which is maybe I assume that all these results are correct. So if you are going to reproduce in terms of universality, if they have done in US, I can do here in India, but I'm not able to do it because something is missing in that. The third important thing about the research students, you cannot control your trajectory of a student for entire her or his life. You can always be you can vouch for his work when he is or she is performing the experiment or getting the work done at your laboratory. But if he or she joins some other institution and there he or she is having a kind of pressure to prove the worth, then that fellow gets into trap. And I have seen people, from my own experience, this has happened. I cannot, I may take the blame on me that I did not give that kind of, no, that was not the case. When he or she joined elsewhere, that was something different. Fourth important thing, which I just noticed in the case of one of promotions, I found a person who was waiting for nature publication, for which she had to wait for 3-4 years. And because of that, her promotion was denied. We had no other mechanism. Now she has published, her case was considered, but she lost 3 years of her valuable contribution as a scientist in an institution. So these are some of the issues which need to be handled in a very, like, what should I say? It does not have a solution which is going to give a good result immediately, but definitely it has to go in a long way, and we have to keep in mind always. We should not be following the second part, which is conducting something which is misrepresentation of fact. If negligence or something in my experiment, I can give example that I was reading a paper in which people said that this is hydrogen is having magnetic property, right? And that was from a big group. But when the methodology was followed, it was found that somebody used the metal scapula for taking the chemicals, and from there some metal came into your reactions, and because of that this hydrogen showed magnetic behavior. But that was refuted, and then again experiments were performed. So that is another way of contributing to the science, which is always there. Yes, it's a very valuable question, and we have to be, as a teacher, as a researcher, we have to be mindful of these kind of potential hazards. I will say it is potential hazard because anyway, we are all subjected to this kind of scrutiny entire our life. Not today I have published and it is gone. Ji.
Yes,
Professor
Sunita
Sunita
ma'am,
Malhotra.
please. Yeah.
Professor Sunita, I think it's your turn.
Oh, yes. Am I audible? Thank you.
Yes.
Am I audible, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know, sir, you are sitting in such a senior position, and what Professor Shubha Gokhale has raised, similar thing was in my mind also, that while we frame these policies, are we not aware of what kind of research or anything at the policy level is going on in our country? Because something you
I'm not able to listen you, madam.
if you set some
मैडम
standards,
आवाज कट रही है
after 4 or 5 years, you see that things go in a wrong direction, and then we have to trace a little more caution, sir. Every time we don't have to take a U-turn because, sir, you know very well that at one point of time we say that MPhil or PhD is mandatory or NET is mandatory, and then we at different timings have different policies. So, is there something more into it, that the clarity or in policy making is also to be at a more, I would say, intelligent level, that how things will move in coming 20-30 years, so that we have a consistent way out for where to go, a clear direction, which could really lead the researchers and the supervisors both into positive and sustainable research. I meant that. Thank you.
Madam, the problem is that sometimes we start following somebody, like in China, they started publishing at a very high rate, and then they were capturing almost every intellectual property by having patents. So then the need was felt that we should have some kind of policy by which the students should also be encouraged to publish. And publishing means China used to pay rupees if you publish in PRL, if you publish in APL. They were not only getting recognition in terms of academic achievement, but also monetary benefit was also given to them. So sustainable research, making oneself accountable, and also the research is not for only publishing paper. Sometimes it is swanta sukhai also, because when you get involved, you start uh, like experiencing some kind of joy when you publish, when you produce new results. So what we do, I can summarize this in a different form. Like we have followed the British legacy, and the British legacy of writing a thesis is they prescribe that there must be preface, then acknowledgement, then there is a that is called review of literature, then methodology, and then whatnot. And at the end, what you see, the thesis comes to be about 1,000 pages, and if you ask where is your original work, it is not found. Whereas in case of German, they value 1 page to be considered for the award of degree if it is your own contribution, original contribution. So sometimes the how should I place this before you? You know, the formalities, these are the things that you have to have essentially in your thesis, and then it will be considered as thesis. Otherwise, no. The value for original contribution is lost. Number one. Number two, when you devise some kind of I will name it API, then there are many things go for seminars, conferences, and you know, people are only finding their way to get something done that way, not concentrating on their research. The third important thing is, in my center also, when I receive researchers, they come out with a problem which is a kind of permutation combination. Permutation combination means somebody has done with this ion beam, somebody has done with this energies, right? With this substance, I'm going to do it differently. So this permutation combination will lead to what? Some kind of publication. The knowledge of one kind of technique and applying that technique everywhere, instead of looking for a problem which is real in nature and finding a solution of that real problem, that requires a lot of hard work, and sometimes entire of your life is actually consumed to reach to some level. Not the entire problem can be solved in one go. So the training of mind, the policy will always be there, and policies may not motivate you that way. So because of that, in this talk, I tried to emphasize, I tried to give a historical way of looking at how this morality evolved, what is good, what is bad, and every day we are confronted and we have to look at Gita, Bhagavad Gita, that what is good, what is bad. So this is a kind of question which need to be answered every day. We cannot get a ready-made final solution that this is good, this is bad, right? I agree with you that policies sometimes they do more harm than making something good for the country, and we are victims to some kind of policy, such kind of policies. We have all encountered this kind of policies that have done much harm than, right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, if there is no question, may I now request? Okay, sir. JP sir, please, sir. Srivastava sir. Sir, unmute yourself.
Mr. Pandey, I have one observation that many of the researchers, they have very good publication profiles, but the overall knowledge and the understanding of the subject is somewhat lacking. Do you think that there is some sort of casualty of the ethics at some point of time?
Sir, I just said that we hang around over some technique I have learned, like for example, X-ray diffraction. So what I do entire of my life, without knowing how this X-ray diffraction is going to help or solve the problems in other domains, I keep on changing the samples, and I sometimes take the entire series to publish a large number of papers. So publications does not mean that you have attained that height which is actually desired from you. So unless otherwise, the conceptually, see, I can classify the skills into three different classes. One is technical skill, the other one is human skill, and the third one is conceptual skill. So technically, I may be very sound. I know how to perform an experiment, how to characterize a sample, but what I am getting out of that. So conceptually, I may be very poor. I cannot connect the dots. I cannot get the whole picture out of that. So that is the problem, and I cannot say that these people do not know. They know, but they know only small part. The way this elephant problem is there, Gautam Buddha. You go and look at what the elephant is. Somebody will describe that this is trunk, which is like a tree. So something like. So we always focus only one part without understanding how that system integrates and gives a whole picture. And somebody, Binalji, said that we are helping the geocachology community for giving the dates. What we emphasize, they come that iska date kar dijiye. Iska date kar dijiye ka matlab humne uska date nikal diya. Date means it's how old this phenomena would have been. So that we came out. But what science you are coming out of that? You can publish that we dated a rock which is a million years or billion years old. So important thing is that how we are going to connect the dot, how we are going to interpret what is the significance of that date, which gives you some answer to some science question. Then only approve your sample is approved. So we emphasize that way, and that is to be taken care by different people across the country. When the young researchers come to you, you have to make them understand that, see, it is not that you are getting some TM picture or a CM picture. What information you are going to get, that is important. तो अब जैसे सूरदास जी अगर कहें तो सूरदास जी ने अपने 6-7 पद में सब कुछ बता दिया, पूरी फोरेंसिक साइंसेस की कहानी ही बता दी उन्होंने टोटलिटी के साथ में. और हम लोग क्या है, एक जगह किसी को पकड़ के उसी में वी आर स्ट्रेचिंग इट लाइक थीसिस पर थीसिस बनती चली जाती. Sorry to say this, but this is what the state of affairs is. जी.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Dr. Neha Garg to formally propose a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Kakuli. A very good afternoon to all. Thank you is a very small, yet the most beautiful word that can be felt by heart. Today, on behalf of Seminar Committee, School of Sciences, IGNOU, I take this opportunity to put all our gratitude into words. I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageshwar Rao, sir, to organize this webinar and bring an insight and guidance. We are thankful to our Pro Vice Chancellor for their support. I would like to express my sincere thanks to our esteemed speaker, Professor Avinash Chandra Pandey, Director, Inter-University Accelerator Center, New Delhi, for sparing his precious time in spite of his busy schedule. Sir, thank you very much for enlightening us on various important points on ethics in science. It was indeed a very informative session. We must mention our deep sense of appreciation to our Director, School of Sciences, Professor Meenal Mishra, under whose continuous support and guidance we are able to accomplish and organize this webinar. We extend our thanks to Professor R. Bhaskar, Chairperson, Seminar Committee, School of Sciences, for putting his efforts to organize this webinar. We thankfully acknowledge the help and cooperation extended by Mr. Rajesh Sharma, PIU IGNOU, for wide publicity and for arranging live streaming of webinar on the IGNOU Facebook page. We extend our sincere thanks to VCO for assisting us at each step to arrange this webinar. We sincerely acknowledge the participation of our registrars, directors, and heads of and time for joining us to each member of the seminar committee, School of Sciences, for their kind support. I sincerely thank Dr. Kakuli Gogoi for moderating the program. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all our audience for making this program successful. In short, we are grateful to all who have related to this event directly or indirectly. Thank you so much for being with us today. Have a good day.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Professor Pandey. And I really thank you for gracing the occasion and motivating and inspiring us. And now, with the permission of Chair, can I request we can close this session? I think VC sir has left the session. So, Professor Bhaskar, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Once again, दिल से आभारी हूँ. आपका टाइम मेरे को पता है, शेड्यूल पता है, and really grateful. We'll continue to seek your guidance. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.